Okay. Well, I'm Kim Best. I'm the new kid on the block, and part of my role with Will Work for Food is finding speakers. And I felt like asking the founder of Will Work for Food, Natalie Armstrong Motin, to be my first find was brilliance on my part. I have known Natalie since before COVID, and I hired her to help me with marketing my mediation practice. And it was one of the smartest things that I ever did. I thoroughly enjoyed working with her. I also watched her begin this Will Work for Food program. And I thought the idea was genius. And for those of you new to this, what she did was provide an opportunity to share the best speakers on the planet, herself included, with mediators, attorneys, dispute resolution practitioners around the world. And since then, she's not only made this free for people to view the very many wonderful speakers on their website. She continues to keep this going with weekly conversations. And the ask, of course, is that you make a donation to the food bank of the speaker's choice or of your choice. And that said, since starting this in 2020, Natalie and her team and you all have raised $992,736.98. So if someone could contribute 2 cents more so we could have that an even number, that'd be great. No. So we'll find out where Natalie would like the donations to go for today's talk. I want to introduce her not by reading her bio. I want to say that when I think of Natalie, the first word that comes to my mind is genius. And the second word, if I had to have one, would be creative. She is indeed a genius who thinks outside of the box and makes that opportunity, I guess generous would be my third word, available by sharing it with other people. So enough on the introduction. Natalie has written a book, which I read and was going to talk with her about, but since then she's also come out with something else. And Natalie, if you'll take over the stage, it's all you.
I'm happy to, and I appreciate all of the lovely things that you said about me. You're a very convincing liar, Kim. Thank you. So I will hope, of course, that you support your local food bank on a regular basis. We do, but if you don't have a preferred food bank, would you please consider mine in my home state of Idaho? I've put it in the chat. The Idaho Food Bank. Statistically, when school is out, um, 6 out of 10 children go to bed hungry at night because they don't have school lunches, and that is heartbreaking to me. And so, anything that you can do to help would be greatly appreciated. So, Kim said that I'm going to talk about some creative ideas, and that is true. I'm absolutely going to attempt to help you with some creativity. I'm going to give a short presentation, and then we'll open it up so that I can answer your particular questions. And I hope that you do, because if you don't, then Kim is going to ask me some humdingers and try to get one over on me, and we don't want that. So let's talk about what it really takes to build a practice. And you know this from the room. A lot of what really matters in getting a settlement in a case is tenacity. It's one of the most important things that we can offer our clients. And the same is true when we're building a practice. When I talk about building a practice or marketing your practice, it's of course social media is part of it, but not all of it is about LinkedIn. So let me tell you about a client of mine, been practicing for, about, I guess, 12 or 13 years when they called and brought me in. This person is incredibly intelligent, really sharp, well trained, genuinely excellent at what he does in the room. And over decades, he had built a fantastic practice. He had a really solid roster of repeat clients. He had a few really good referral sources, and his practice was very comfortable. And maybe it was too comfortable. And that's kind of a red flag. So he realized that his caseload had sort of fallen off. And it was because two of his primary sources of referral had both retired in that same 6 month stretch of time. And that meant that he had a much higher level of invisibility than he had had previously. Not because he was not doing a great job, he just hadn't been doing all of the other things necessary to build and keep a practice sustainable. And maybe you've had something similar happen to you in your practice. Over the last 32 years of working with mediators and neutrals around the world, the people who build really remarkable practices are not better at marketing than you are. They just decided at some point that staying visible was just a part of doing their job really well. It's hand in glove. And so that's what this whole presentation is about. Everything else is just sort of the how part. So most of the practitioners that I talk to, I think also they carry around some version of that story. They identify as a mediator, not a marketer. And I understand that. I do, because I think in our industry, the word marketing kind of, it's loaded with baggage. It sounds promotional. It sounds like you're trying to sell something, like you're hawking something. And that frequently for us really bumps up against all of our ethical instincts about dignity and impartiality. So we want to retire that word just for the duration of the hour, and we can bring it back in. But what I'm really talking about is staying in the conversation, being the person whose name comes up when an attorney is sitting across from a client and they need a neutral. That's it. Just being the person that someone thinks of when they read an article about workplace conflict, being present enough, consistently enough that when the moment comes, because it almost invariably does come, that your name is sort of already in the room. And I don't think of that as marketing. That is professional citizenship, right? And professional citizenship doesn't require an enormous marketing budget. It doesn't need a PR firm. It doesn't require you to become someone that you're not. It just takes 15 minutes, maybe an hour a day, and the active decision to do it. So everything that I want to talk about today kind of maps to one of three things. Everything that a practice really needs. And one is visibility. People need to know that you exist, and they need to remember your name when it matters. Really important. Then you have to have credibility, of course. So people need to trust your expertise before they've even worked with you. So credibility, your reputation. And then referrals are really important, because what other people say about you matters more than what you say about yourself in a LinkedIn post. So referrals, that I can't say enough about that. So that's kind of the filter for everything that I want to share today. So visibility, the thing that I mentioned first, is something that we need to be keenly aware of and really gentle with, because visibility decays, and it decays really, really fast. So let's imagine that here's Felicia on the Zoom with us, and she's a fantastic neutral, fantastic reputation. And let's say that Felicia has really been out there, like she is, posting and networking and speaking publicly and writing articles and providing educational programs. And she's great in the room. And all of those things combined have made her a really sought after neutral. She's done really well. Now imagine that Felicia just goes dark for 6 months. No LinkedIn presence, no outreach, no engagement, no public speaking. She doesn't publish any articles. She doesn't update her website. What happens? Does she stagnate? Actually, no. She goes backward. And so when you are out actively, talking about the things we do and how we do them and for whom, and what's the difference between the benefits and the features of neutral processes, all of those things really matter. But when you just stop, come to a dead stop, and of course I understand life happens and sometimes we need to take a break, but if you just go dark, your practice actually goes backward. It doesn't just stagnate, it goes backward. People wonder, what happened? Did she retire? Well, I don't know. And they very rarely do the research to find out what happened. They just move on to the next neutral on the list. So being consistent and being tenacious is one of those things that is most important to our visibility. Now, I get that we're all really busy people. So when I say that we need to be visible, that doesn't mean that I have an expectation for anyone that they post every day on LinkedIn, that they produce a short form video every day for their YouTube channel, that they are at every networking event. Those goals are too high. And if you set that goal for yourself, you'll be disappointed, you'll be frustrated, and then you will stop because it's not paying off the way that it really should for you to have a very nice life for yourself. So we don't want to do that. We want to set goals and aspirations that are achievable, but also let us still do the work that we need to do, pay attention to our partners, have a picnic, go have a barbecue for 4th of July, all of those things that matter to the human existence. So again, out of sight is out of mind. That's not me being cynical. That's just how human memory works. That's how our clients work. So the good news is that the cure for this is really, really simple. Small actions made consistently can rebuild the visibility faster than most of us think. And it will be rebuilt faster than it took you to initially build your practice. The other lovely thing is that most of your competitors are not doing these things either. So it's an open lane for you. Floor it. All right. One of the bigger or more common practice development mistakes that I've seen over these decades is, like I said, when people say, "Oh, I should post more on LinkedIn. I should update my website. I should go to more events." Yeah, all of those things are really great tactics. But tactics without a goal are just busy work. And you've kind of stuck a marketing label on it. That's not exactly the same. So we want to go about things with a strategy. And a strategy for a goal. So for example, if you set your goal as I want more referrals, that's not a really great goal. And the reason is because you can't reverse engineer it. You can't put it on a calendar. You can't measure it at the end of the quarter and know whether or not you achieved it. Instead, we want to set for ourselves goals that would sound more like, I want 3 new referral relationships with employment attorneys in my market by December 31st. That's a goal. It's specific, it's dated, it's measurable, and now you can work backward from it. So you want to start at the destination and work back to 45 minutes from now, because every step has a different time horizon. So you can have an annual goal, you could have a quarterly milestone, then you would have a weekly task, and then you would have a daily micro task. That makes sense. So you go from the big to the minute. So the annual goal, this is where you want to be in 12 months. Maybe have 1 or 2 goals, not 10. 2 is plenty. Constraint is important. And then the quarterly milestone, it would be what has to be true by the end of this quarter for me to be on track. So that this is the checkpoint, not the destination. The weekly tasks that we want to set up for ourselves, that's what do you actually do this week that moves that needle in the right direction. So this is something that is specific and completable. And then there are the little daily micro tasks. That is, the little task that you put on your calendar. This is the thing that actually gets done today. So maybe you're spending an hour a week a few minutes a day doing this. And it looks something like this. Um, your annual goal would be one bar association speaking invitation accepted by the end of December. You want to be a public speaker like Felicia or David or Kim. Your quarter 1 milestone would be to research and submit 2 speaking proposals by March 31st, right? The weekly task then would be to identify the right committee contact at one of your target organizations. And then the daily micro task would be to draft a paragraph of your proposal bio, right? And that's what you do today. And that draft, 15 minutes. You could work with AI, make it go any faster. If you've already got an existing bio, work with AI to really refine it, hone it, make it better than it already is. So you go from big to small. You might have, as your annual goal, 12 published articles, 1 a month, no exceptions. Your monthly milestone then would be 1 article drafted and published by the last Friday of each month. Right? So the weekly task then would be draft 1 section of next month's article. And today's daily task, the micro task, would be just to write 150 words. What is that? A paragraph? So that you can break down all of these seemingly big things that market and promote your practice, and you make them bite-sized, right? It's a really old joke. How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. That's the same kind of thing that we're doing here. And in that way, all of these things get done, right? Because if you sit down and say, I want to publish 12 articles this year, and you've sat yourself in front of your computer, and now you've put it in your own mind that you have to write 12 brilliant articles, that's a task that most of us are just not going to get done today. And if we get it done, it's not going to be done well. It's not something that you're going to want your own byline on. So it's better to show a little constraint, pull it in a little bit, and then break things down into those bite-sized pieces so you can move them forward. Now, how do you pick and choose? You know, you have to choose. How do you pick and choose the time that you spend? Well, I think all of us have the time. Some of us just spend it a little bit differently. In 2026, a lot of us fall prey to the old doom scroll. Well, that's one of the best ways to reclaim this really valuable time. Put the device down and set yourself up with the big goals, the milestones, and then the tasks necessary to complete them. Maybe you have a commute to work. Maybe you find yourself standing in line waiting to board an airplane, walking the dog, vacuuming the floor. All of these kinds of things allow us the gray matter space to think about the daily task, think about the goals, and think about how we want to organize, how we want to reach our goals. That's really important. So these are, I don't know, they're kind of the invisible hours in our daily lives, in our practices. They're not empty time. They're just sort of unscheduled time that has been colonized by TikTok videos. And so I'm just suggesting that, you know, we shift things a little bit, nothing dramatic. In fact, it's embarrassingly small, actually, but it is really important. So, yeah. Sorry, did somebody have a question? No? All right. So before you go to LinkedIn, before you scroll through, before you look at everybody else's content, think about what it is that you're looking at and leave one substantive comment from someone in your network. Just that. Maybe that's your task today, is just that engagement. You know, before you go off and doom scroll, get that serotonin kick. Think about just the one small thing that you can do. Maybe you open LinkedIn and search for prospective clients in your geographic area and invite 20 of them to connect. just that, just a few minutes. But the cumulative value of all of these little things have an enormous effect. The growth is exponential, not arithmetic. All right. Um, there is there is a failure mode that I want you to avoid. So when you're standing at the edge of 5 free minutes, for example, and you've got nothing queued up, you don't have an idea about what today's small task is, not having anything queued up lets us default to the path of least resistance, right? So the solution to that, I don't think, is willpower. Honestly, I think it's strategic preparation. So if you know in advance what to do with 5 free minutes, for example, then you can use them smartly, intelligently. But if you don't know, then that's when our phone comes out and we start the doom scroll. So what could you put in your queue? How could you strategically prepare for this sort of odds and ends, little moments, the few minutes between tasks, the few minutes of silence, the few minutes waiting? You can think about using a voice memo app on your phone or on your computer or your tablet, and open your voice memo app. That's one of the easiest ways to do it. You click the button and you just start recording ideas that you can talk about as an FAQ on your website, ideas that you could talk about in a short form video, ideas that you could post about, ideas about, anything and everything. You just start recording ideas. So we all have those moments. Some of us in the shower is our great moment. So you just record those, you write them down, you jot them down, do a voice memo, but keep just one document, one app, just one, with all of these ideas as they come up. And you'll be amazed at how many great ideas you'll be able to accumulate in a really short amount of time. So that next time you find you've got 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and because we know what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be, posting and building and communicating and engaging and doing all of these things to build our practice. Well, now you don't just sit there looking at a blank screen thinking, well, what in the world am I supposed to do? You can open your app, you can open your journal, open your notes, and you've got all of these ideas to build from. And then you pick one and expand on it. You don't have to finish it, but flesh it out. Give it some life. Look at the pros and the cons of what you're saying and how you want to say it and who the audience is. And you think about who's going to read this, what value is in it for them. Because, as much as we all love being best lawyer of the year, you can only post that so often before the virtue signaling gets really, really boring. So think about it. So every day, Monday through Friday, these little tiny things. But if you've got a queue of ideas built in voice memo or an app or a journal, however you like to keep your information, it's what works best for you. But choose one place and just start stacking them up. And the queue, it doesn't have to be elaborate, right? Recipe cards in a shoebox, that is absolutely fine. Just something that you could refer back to and think, oh, yep, that was the good idea. I'm going to run with that one today, and then flesh it out. And then the next day you come back, you refine it. The next day you come back, create the solid outline of it. The next day you come back and you start thinking about, well, that's a really good idea. Now, that really good idea can be an article that I post. That really good idea could be a newsletter on LinkedIn or a blog post on my website. That from that long form that I'm creating this article, that could be a video that I create. Or I've just made 5 brilliant points in this article. That could be 5 short form videos, or it could be 5 posts on LinkedIn, or it could be a 5-panel carousel that you create. It could be the start of the presentation that you give at your next public speaking event. It could be all of these different things from that one little recipe card in a shoebox. You build on it just bit by bit, piece by piece. All right. I think that the other, kind of pedestrian, but really powerful tool for accountability is using the calendars that we all use all of the time. Now, I use my AI, and I've worked with my Claude to create an app to help me with this. And so, because I've got Claude on my phone and my tablet and my computer, when I click the one app, and so my queue exists in Claude, and then on one of my little moments of availability, I tell Claude, help me prioritize these so that I can, move on to this one or that one. And so we work together to strategize what kind of content we're going to be working with. And then my next move is to tell Claude, open my Google Calendar and let's bifurcate that task into micro tasks between today and next Wednesday. Give me 15 minutes in the morning while I'm drinking my coffee, and you know how much I love my coffee, but I have to multitask sometimes. So I can drink my coffee and I can work on my micro tasks so that I can hit that milestone by the end of the week. Because I don't always have an hour to dedicate to myself. And that seems like I'm really cutting myself short, doesn't it? That's not nice. But if I give myself 10 minutes Monday through Friday, that's 50 minutes. There's my hour. Task done and dusted. Thank you very much. It's off my desk. And I feel really good about myself. I love check in it, done. Right? Here's the list. Nope, did it. I love it. So I work with my AI and my digital calendars, and I just set aside those minutes. Now, some days I have to, create some wiggle room for myself. Some days I have back-to-back appointments. But the other really nice thing that I did for myself was on my digital calendar where clients can book time with me is I set 10-minute buffers between every meeting. One, because I'm only human and I can only sit in this position for so long looking at a screen. I do need to get up and stretch my legs. I need to get a drink. I need a little bio break from time to time. But sometimes those 10 minutes will let me add to my queue. So maybe I've had a conversation with a client and an idea that I gave to them, I can tweak and play with and make it work for myself in a different way. Well, that's those 10 minutes. That's when I can open up my note taker on Claude and talk to it and have it add another idea into my queue and then help me prioritize, help me strategize. Where does that fit into the priorities that we've set up for this queue of activities, for this queue of goals, for this queue of milestones, and how will it affect my micro tasks on a daily basis? So having a recurring slot on your calendar is one of the best ways, in my opinion, that you're held accountable and you can manage the time. Because if you don't have it on your calendar, if you haven't sort of given yourself that gift of personal accountability or personal discipline, then I think most of us kind of default to, well, I don't want to today. I'll find time next week, right? We give ourselves a little bit too much slack on these kinds of things, and that does not lead to the best practice that we can build for ourselves. The other thing that I think is really important is how much words matter. I'm not trying to be clever with you here, but I think words really, really matter. So what you name the slot that you create on your calendar makes a difference. So for example, if you set aside 15 minutes every morning before you start your day, and you call that time slot marketing stuff I may or may not do, well, that's not very inspirational. That's not going to get the job done. But if you call that time slot practice development, that has a totally different ring to it. And it has a different impact on the way that we see ourselves and the value of our time and what we're really doing. So I know it seems silly, but name your calendar slot something that for you is inspirational and motivational. It has an action potential. Because if you don't take it seriously, then every time you look at it, you might get a giggle out of your own joke on you, but it also might not get done. So yeah, words matter. The other thing that I like to do is stack my micro tasks so that they are adjacent to an existing habit. So one of the things that I like to do when I'm recording, for example, will work for food. And sometimes I look better than others. Sometimes I'm having a good hair day. My lipstick works. I don't know. I drew my eyeliner on straight, whatever it is that makes me feel good about me. I've got the right energy, had just the right amount of coffee. When that happens, I like to stack the recording then of short form videos or my posts on LinkedIn or whatever it is when I'm feeling really good and camera ready, and I can frequently know when that's going to be. So Thursdays, right? I try to look a little bit better. So I can stack either before Will Work for Food or after Will Work for Food time for me to record a video. So I can record a marketing Monday before or after. Dressed up, I got my lipstick on, cameras are rolling, stacking like items. So use an adjacent, already existing habit to stack your micro habits next to. It makes it a lot easier. The other thing that I think is important is to color code your calendar. We can all do that. So you have one color for client work, one for the admin, one for your practice development, because again, these visual cues really do make a difference. And then also, I think to have a weekly rhythm. So Monday, you plan and choose this week's activity. You choose the action that you're going to take and how you're going to prioritize Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then you can execute them, one action per session. And then Friday, of course, is always really nice. You can log what you did and, give yourself a pat on the back for all the hard work that you've done. So, so that is, I think, a lot of what we need to do to build these sort of things. The methodology, no piece of content, not a LinkedIn post, not a short article, or an email newsletter, requires more than, 3 15-minute sessions really from idea to published, because we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for progress, right? So session 1, you'd research and outline it. Session 2 is, first draft, you write the thing. You don't worry about, the edit. You don't even need to second guess it. Session 3, that's when you go back and edit and publish it. And you read it once, fix all the obvious, hit post, 15 minutes. So those 3 things get the job done. 45 minutes total. If you're slow like me, it takes you an hour. But most practitioners are waiting for a 90-minute window it's never going to come if you have a busy caseload. So stop waiting for it. So again, we want to create the flywheel. So a LinkedIn post becomes a newsletter section, and a newsletter section becomes a speaking topic, and a speaking topic becomes a blog post, and a blog post becomes a conference proposal. Work smarter, not harder. We don't want to create more work. We want to compress it. We want one strong idea repurposed, and that can fuel months of really great content. All right. So some really specific actions as examples that you could do in a short amount of time. And, Kim mentioned I wrote a whole book about this. 365 things that you can do in under an hour. 365 things you could do in under an hour. So if you were really ambitious, and Kim told me that I did way too many drugs in the 60s to think that it was possible. But all of these things, so you could flip through and find it. So, but some examples, you could log on to your LinkedIn, open your profile, and if you are the kind of person who sends people a link to your LinkedIn profile as opposed to a hyperlink, you just, copy the link to your profile, which is absolutely fine. Then you might want to think about getting a vanity URL for your LinkedIn profile. Take you 5 minutes. By the way, LinkedIn, the URLs that they assign to us, it's just this horrible random mess of 22 characters and numbers. It's a disaster. So you go onto LinkedIn, up in the very far right-hand corner, at the top, you can customize your LinkedIn URL. You've done that. That's 2 minutes. Now, open up all of the places that are linked to your LinkedIn profile. So maybe your website, or maybe another social media page, or maybe your YouTube channel, or maybe the signature line in your emails, and update those assets to show your new vanity LinkedIn URL. That's one thing that you could do. Excuse me. You could update your LinkedIn headline. So a LinkedIn headline should state who you are, what you do, how you do it, or for whom. If your LinkedIn headline just says Kim Best, owner, well, that's not helping anybody. Owner of what? What do you do, Kim? Right? You need to be very specific. Kim Best, Best Conflict Solutions, offering elder care centers an appropriate, efficient way to find durable, reasonable solutions to workplace conflict. That's a headline, right? Be specific. And again, you can do that using AI for some assistance, but spend 10 minutes doing it. That's your job today. Check, it's done. But the overall difference that it makes by the end of the week, Kim has rebuilt her LinkedIn profile. Headline today, LinkedIn URL tomorrow. Next Wednesday, she's going to work on her about section and put it all in first person. The next day, she's going to make sure that her educational experience is updated, or she's going to send a recommendation for somebody, right? All of these little actions make a big, big difference. You could, I don't know, let me think. Oh, an easy one to do, a really important one that you could do. You know, when you do your client's intake and you get their name and their address and their firm and you get all of their information, one of the easiest things that you can do is note down their birth date. You don't need to worry about the year necessarily, but the month and the day. And when you note their birth date on their file, have a stash of all different kinds of birthday cards, or maybe you have some really nice custom note cards that you've had printed up for your practice. Perfect. Pull one out and write a really short, but a very nice, a really sincere happy birthday message to that person. Put it in the envelope, seal the envelope, address it, and then where you're going to put the stamp in pencil, just give the 2 weeks advance date to their actual birth date and start a tickle file so that it's on your desk, so that you know today you're going to send out these 3 birthday cards because those people have a birthday next week and you want to be sure that they get the cards in time. And when you just add that, just that one little thing in, what does that take you? 5 minutes? That's it, 5 minutes. But that person who receives a handwritten birthday card from you is just gobsmacked by the amount of attention and sincerity and human connectivity that a handwritten card brings in a mailbox. And it really sets you apart because they're going to have put their birth date on LinkedIn and they're going to get, I don't know, 15, 20, 100, 200 DMs that all look exactly the same on LinkedIn because everybody clicks the blue button, the AI button that says, "Happy birthday, David." We know what you did. You clicked the blue button. That doesn't count. You don't get credit for that. You got to do more than click the automatic blue button. Come on now. You can write 2 sentences on a postcard and pay for the stamp for a birthday card. These are the little kinds of actions, the little things that take 30 seconds of personalization that make all the difference in the practice development, the reputation, the credibility that we're trying to build for ourselves. You could use LinkedIn polls. Maybe in your queue, you note down that you've got a question about something. So create a LinkedIn poll. It'll take you 5 minutes. That's the micro task that you can do today. I think that the other thing that I want to mention is most of these things that we do, we think of as the asset that we're creating for potential clients. And for the most part, that's probably true. But don't forget to do the little things that make a difference to us. And so your micro task might be just do a quick review and make sure that um, your your business is set up the way it should be. Maybe laws have changed, and maybe you could get a greater tax benefit if you move from sole proprietorship to LLC. Maybe your business is doing really great and you want to spend the next 15, 20 minutes and find out if you incorporate in South Dakota, for example, then that provides an extra corporate shield that would protect your firm from suit and therefore protect your assets for your kids and your grandkids. So one little thing, it doesn't have to be overt marketing. It can be the thing that is best for us. 15 minutes, open your convening forms and read them out loud like you're reading your children a story time book, and make sure they still make sense. Are they still up to date? Are they accurate? Are they confusing? Or are they clear and brief? Are they customer friendly? Give them a review. Spend 15 minutes, read your own forms. Those are the kinds of things that we're talking about when we're talking about mini tasks, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That's what we're looking at, micro tasks. And the cumulative, lovely, powerful thing that happens. It's if you look at it in the same way that you would look at going to the gym, right? If, I don't know, January 1st, we all have our big resolution moments, and you say, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to work out. This is my year. I'm going to get in shape. And you go on January 2nd, and then you don't go the rest of the year. And by the end of it, you're wondering how come you're not in any better shape. Stamina's not any better. Well, because you just bought a membership. That doesn't count. You actually have to go. You have to go every day for a few minutes. That's what building a practice is. All right. I promised Kim that I would leave some time at the end for questions and answers. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them because I want to make sure that you have your issues addressed. What can I help you with? And hey, Scotty Claus.
Sure like to hear the specific questions for you from you all. David asks in the chat, how do you increase your confidence in content creation for publication when it seems like what you think of has already been written about by someone else and you don't want to look like you're stealing or borrowing content from someone else?
That's a really good question. And the easiest thing to do is to personalize it. We all have stories, we all have personal filters, we all have experiences. So you take that great idea and you apply it to your own life experience, your own work experience, and you tell it through that filter. And so you can say, you know what, I read this great story about this thing, and it got me thinking about this one case that I did. Have you ever had one of these? And you just tell the story. Now, because we always have to worry about confidentiality, you definitely want to change the details to protect the innocent. So you put it in a different light, in a different industry. You don't use real names. You can't use the details that make it identifiable, but you can always apply somebody else's great idea or a really crap idea to tell your own story because that makes it absolutely unique. What else?
Do you have any tips to keep a brand voice authentic when using AI tools to create newsletters? Great question, Tina.
That's a really good question. And there are all different kinds of prompts, and there are prompt libraries that you can look up. And so one of the easiest is \human, and that will encourage the AI to write like you. If you have an author that you really admire, so if you happen to really admire pick any author, Seth Godin, for example. If you really like his writing, then you want to, in artifacts, upload anything that he's written, and you want to, in the systems section, personalize your AI profile so that you encourage it to use the voice of Seth Godin when you're writing on my behalf. And then you want to upload it as artifacts, your brand ID colors, the hex numbers that you've been given. You want to upload your logo. You want to upload your personality. You want to upload your photographs. And every time you have a prompt, you say, use assets in my artifacts file, use the voice of Seth Godin, \human, and get it to write. And it's like working with an intern, and you just have to keep the conversation going. That's one of the best things that you can do.
David.
Natalie, thank you. If you're doing, if you flywheeled a longer piece, and so you're doing a set of um, how to arbitrate better, and you've broken it out into chunks, and you're putting it on LinkedIn. What about at the end, the pluses and minuses at the end of it, fairly long piece, saying if you're looking for an arbitrator who does ABC, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to collaborate.
Yeah, you can always put in a gentle call to action. You can always invite people if you have questions about what I've said. Please feel free to contact me, and you can put that in. Um, you know, um, it's one of the easier ways to encourage. One of the best ways, though, as opposed to a call to action, David, is to ask a question. And so if you can ask a question that says, I've thought about this, I think this is best, but what has your experience been? To encourage the dialogue. So a call to action is kind of one-sided, but if you can get people to engage, so ask the open-ended question, we're masters at that. That is our wheelhouse, man. So use that skill set to ask that open-ended question and get the engagement going.
Terrific. Thank you.
Sure.
Someone says, I'm writing a book related to my mediation practice. Thoughts on finding a publisher, self-publishing, want to use it to help potential clients and increase my credibility.
Books are an amazing asset to create, and they are really hard work. So good for you. That's a big, big job. I have opinions about it. So, for example, when you go to a traditional publishing house, it's not uncommon for them to say, "Great, we want 93 points. We want 93% of your book. So for every dollar that your book earns, we get 93 cents." Well, yeah, but it's my experience. It's my decades of work. It's my writing. This is my property. And so I personally don't like the big publishing houses, and some of them are much more egregious than others. You can easily self-publish. If you go to Amazon.com, you scroll all the way to the bottom past all the big Amazon Prime Time deals, go down to the black footer of it. And I think it's the third column from the left. And it says something really encouraging like publish with us. And you can open what's called a KDP account. And KDP will walk you through everything that you need. And the Amazon split is 70-30. You keep 70, they get 30. Um, but that's probably the easiest route to go. Finding a publisher is more difficult than most of us would hope. But what you should definitely do when you've got your book finished is hire an outside editor to go through it, to clean it up, to make sure that it has the right flow, it keeps the same rhythm. Some of us, we wander through tenses. It's first person, third person, and an editor will help you find all of those kinds of things and really clean it up. You can find editors on Fiverr. You can find editors on LinkedIn. So write your book, let a professional editor go through it and mark it up. And then for publishing, you can pick and choose. KDP, you could probably publish, if you had a finished manuscript, you could get it published in a couple of hours' time. If you go through a publishing house, that's much different. Also, in my experience, the publishing houses, they will, offer you payment in advance for your manuscript. But then you owe them that money back. So if your book doesn't sell, you have to pay that money back. That advance has to go back. And you don't get to earn any money from the book until that advance limit has been reached. And then you start earning money after that. So the advance, in my opinion, is a little bit iffy for a financial situation. But you got to find the thing that works for you.
Natalie, let me say I did mine as a hybrid, which means I paid part of it and they did the hard work like the library listing number and all that kind of stuff. And it ended up being a lot more expensive than I would ever get back with a book. And I jokingly say I still get $1 a book. And the books are $14. So, but the thing is that writing the book changed the trajectory of my visibility and perceived expertise dramatically, which I wasn't expecting to happen. I wrote it as a work of passion, not a work to not a marketing tool, and it turned out to be a really strong marketing tool. So I think the quality of your work matters. I just think somebody else is going to make money on you writing your book, which is kind of stunning when it's your work in that. Jean, you have your hand up. You're muted. I had to say that once. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for giving you the opportunity to say that. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to have to cut out because I've got a mediation starting at the top of the hour. But I wanted to thank everybody here. Natalie, you don't know this, but we have had a little version of Jerry Lewis's telethon going on, a little Zoomathon for Will Work for Food to get us over the $1 million mark today when you are presenting. And we have done it. We've got someone who agreed to match donations as needed for the first. We needed to have $7,263.02. And more people are putting their numbers in there now. And so thank you. But at least right now we are, we've raised now a little over $7,300 in donations from people this morning. So kudos to you, your COVID project. It's just getting going. Congratulations and thank you. And thank all of you. And keep telling us about the donations, because then we'll sort the numbers out and have the final numbers ready for tomorrow or for next week. Same time, same place, different Zoom link, as I always say. Tears there now.
Yeah, you guys make me weepy. Oh my gosh, your generosity is stunning. Thank you so much.
It is stunning. So I will head out, but Natalie can answer a couple more questions. But thanks all so much. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Yes, back to the questions, why you're here. Natalie, can you speak to how to use training opportunities? This is from Sarah. I've been engaged to also open the door to invite people to use my mediation and neutral services without seeming pushy when I am there to facilitate a training.
Trainings are a great way to build a practice. And so sort of the baseline is you want to, on your social media and your website, promote that you're looking forward to doing the training. Then during the training, you want to be sure that you take a selfie of you at the podium or in front of the whiteboard, for example, and post the during, right? And then afterward, you want to be able to post, it was so great, really enjoyed getting to know you. So there's the before, during, and after. Then you also want to, on LinkedIn or your preferred platform, connect with all of the people who attended and follow up with them. That engagement is really what matters, because they probably won't become a mediator if you've done a mediation training, but they are going to think of you every time an issue or a conflict or a dispute comes up. Your name is at the top of the list because you were the one who taught them all about the magic of the verbal judo that we do. So there's the before, the during, the after, and then there is the ongoing connectivity and engagement with all of the people you did a training for. You can also just be bold and say, if you really enjoyed this training, would you mind giving me a recommendation on LinkedIn? Or would you mind, I always want to do better. Could you tell me, please, what could I do better? What did I miss? How could I better, present this information? Was it easily digestible? Did I make it too compound, too complex? How can I make this work better? And people really value that. Now, you do, of course, when you get a critique like that, you do have to, take it in, absorb it, and apply it to future things. Sometimes it's nonsense and you just disregard it. But that engagement, that outward show of appreciation to people, worth everything. And then, of course, you post that you did the training on your website. You give a hyperlink to the organization so that you can get the AI searchability, or the SEO, which is very nearly dead, sorry to say. You get that searchability result.
I have a question for you that we've never, well, first of all, Natalie, can you share where to do the 365, where to get the 365 tips? And I was hoping you would be able to talk a little bit about your book that came out last month that is sitting on my kitchen counter that everybody who's come in has picked up and thumbed through. But you do have two tools available. Maybe you could put those in the chat.
Sure, they're available on Amazon. So if you open your Amazon account and just type Natalie Armstrong Motin into the search bar, those books will come up. In the book, the 365 book, when you open it up to the dedication page, you can read a love letter that I wrote to my husband. It's dedicated to him because every day he does small little things that prove to be valuable and appreciated in my life and in our relationship. So you can, if you read French, you get the really good saucy version.
I asked in the chat what you all found the most ROI on because I think the one thing we underestimate is how much time it actually takes to build a practice, to be seen as a voice and to be seen as a unique voice, because we know there's more and more mediators being trained all the time who are looking for work in mediation. So how do you stand out as yourself? And we could talk for another hour because I have that many questions written down. But you've mentioned using humor before, Natalie. In the last couple of minutes, could you maybe speak to humor?
Humor is really difficult. It can be, depending on the medium that you choose, it could be read as being sarcastic. It could be read as being snarky. It could be read in the tone of the reader. Now, if you're on a Zoom like this and people can see your face and they can hear your voice and they see your facial expression. So, for example, when I made the comment about Kim teasing me that I did too many drugs in the 60s, but then you saw my face and you saw me, with a no, that I was only 2 years old. So you saw my hand gestures, you saw my face. So you understood it to be humor. Had I written that in a text, you go, oh, okay. Well, that's some really personal information that you've just relayed, and I'm not really sure. Am I supposed to help you into a rehab, or are we being funny, or what? I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that little tidbit. Do I need to be careful about how I invite you to a cocktail party? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not really sure. So you have to be careful with humor and how you use it. The easiest kind of humor is the obvious self-deprecating humor. So, for example, David, lovely David Schraga, who does so much work for Will Work for Food. And he sent me a very nice email that he didn't say, Natalie, were you born dumb? Your parents are going to be so embarrassed at your funeral. Your smooth brain didn't provide me the correct hyperlink that I need to promote next week's program. He didn't say that. He just said, hey, this link is not working for me. Have I missed something? Very generous, very nice, much appreciated at 5 a.m. And I wrote back, sorry, David, limited gray matter on a smooth brain. I made a mistake. I think it's fixed now. Tell me if the smooth brain disease still exists. That kind of self-deprecation, that kind of exchange, that's appropriate humor. I didn't say, well, David, if you weren't doing this at 2 o'clock in the morning, after a long night out, clubbing the way I know only you can club in Hollywood, right? That's not going to be received well. If you put it out, it's not received. When you put it on yourself, that's all right, but it still needs to be obvious. But humor is one of those things that we can use in the room, we can use in our marketing, we can use lots of places, but it really only works, Kim, if the person who is the recipient of the joke knows you. So David and I can have an exchange like that because we have an existing relationship. So there's no question that it's a joke, right? We understand it. That is the love language of our business interactions. If that hasn't already been established, I would avoid humor. So humor's tough. Humor is really tough.
And I say that in memory of one of my favorite moments when I worked with Natalie years back, and she was managing my basically social media and LinkedIn, and I woke up one morning and it said under my name, Happy Tequila Day. And I thought that was delightful because I don't even drink, and I wouldn't have known it was tequila day. So anyway, thank you all for being here very much. Natalie, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And thank you all for your generosity. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.